Hey, I'm your host, Anthony Tank Mansfield, and with me this week is,
Luke Effler.
and this is What You Into.
What you into? What you into?
All right, listener, we're back. Luke, dude, thanks for coming on the show again, man. I appreciate it. Third time, Dale Earnhardt Club, welcome.
Third time's the charm, man.
Yeah. Do you think you're going to start incorporating more of a mustache and all black look into your day-to-day now that you're part of the Dale Earnhardt Club?
Yeah, I guess I have to.
You're like, first off, you now refer to me as the Intimidator.
That's right. Yeah.
And I go left and I go fast. Oh, man. So, yeah, dude, welcome back. I'm stoked to have you back in. We'll do a little housekeeping real quick on the front end. If people want to follow you on IG, it's at General Walcott, and go out and buy Founders Beer.
That's right.
That's
my employer. Support me.
Like I was saying before the show, man, Founders All Day IPA is my go-to. Like, if I got to do some day drinking, if I got to do some tailgating, that's what I'm going with, because it meets on that nice intersection of great taste, but at the same time, I can drink a lot of these and it's gonna be okay.
Yeah,
like I'm not sitting in a parking lot sucking down 6 double IPAs before walking into a Bengals game.
And then you're catatonic at the game. You don't remember anything.
Yeah, like you were there, but it's space and time are happening around you.
Yeah, it's great all day. I mean, like I said before the show, like it drinks like a premium lager, but it has the flavor of an IPA. It's fantastic. It's a great entry beer for craft too.
Yeah, it really is. And
I'm doing my sales pitch right now. So
I'm buying, and I've already bought, and I will buy again. Yeah, no, I mean there is a reason why people love that beer. It just checks all the boxes, and it's not an easy box to check all those boxes.
That's true.
Listener, to find me at Neil to No One is where you can find me on Instagram, and then you can also find me on my website, neiltoknoone.com. All right, man. So let's jump in. So again, this is third time on the podcast, which means there was a first time. The first time you came on was episode 24. You and I sat down and talked records. So I'd done a vinyl episode before where it was me and my friend Nick Glavin. We sat down and we had just both recently gotten into collecting. It was like we both picked it up during COVID primarily.
Right.
And then you were like, yeah, man, I got to. I'm like, I've seen your collection. It's awesome. I'm like, you want to talk about it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So then you came on to talk about like what it was like being. I believe like the name of the episode is something like the ghost of record collecting
past
or
like
future or something.
Yeah, right.
Where it's like where it was an episode where me as a collector I could see what would happen if I stayed on this path and kept going.
You become a total degenerate like me.
I become you. Yeah, eventually I'll become you.
Yeah.
And so and it was an interesting talk. And now. So that was episode 24. This is probably going to be around like episode 122, 123 when this drops. So probably like 100 episodes later. All right.
It's pretty wild.
Let's talk about record collecting now in the modern day. So I've definitely added to the collection.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that.
Yeah. And I keep buying stuff. But I feel myself slowing down a little bit.
Yeah, I think like as you get to a certain point where you're able to be more choosy with what you're adding. Mm-hmm. Depending on what your interests are, you can only listen to so much music in a lifetime, right? So there is like a limit to, at some point you're going to have to just start looking for new things, or else you're like, I kind of have everything I want, right? So, that's probably what you're experiencing.
I'm definitely experiencing that. I'm also experiencing the spatial issue thing. Like, you look and you're like, hey, you're starting to fill up. And I'm like, yeah, man. And I don't okay, where do I put the next piece of furniture at to add into this? And now I got to start like rearranging stuff and all that. And, how much sprawl do I have down here? Am I going to have to make like a secondary room where like I keep this vinyl over here and I got to go walk to get it? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is like, there's always going to be new bands coming out with new music, right?
100%.
Or old bands coming out with new music that you're going to be
100%.
interested in. So the temptation is always there. And that's part of it, is like you're always going to want to, especially as someone who likes to have collections of things.
Yes.
It's just inevitable.
Yeah, it is. And it's exactly that. I think you brought up a good point with there's always new stuff coming out, because I get scared of getting stuck in space and time where like I don't know anything that's happening in modern music. And to the point where I actually started the Spotify playlist that was all music. The bulk of it is music after 2020, where it's just like, all right, trying not to become an old man that's lost in time.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be that dude that like, you know, in the future where the only music I can listen to is 90s music. Because like I've definitely met people that are, you know, older than me that like all they listen to is classic rock. And it's like, all right, cool. But like this was 50, 60 years ago. And I get that like this connects with you on some, because it connects with me on some level. I fucking love classic rock, but
Sure.
I also have other things I want to listen to.
Yeah, you don't want to be the Steve Buscemi meme of "Hello, fellow kid" or
Yeah.
whatever. You know, yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And, you know, different genres emerge and things happen. Like hardcore is having a major like focus on it right now, and like it's changing because everything that happened with Turnstile, but now you're starting to see like the big thing at Coachella that happened with Knock Loose, and then there's like these other bands coming up now, like
They're relatively local too. They're from like Louisville, right?
Yeah, like, yeah,
they're good. Yeah,
and now you got like Scow is coming up, which is a woman fronted band from California that's like so it's kind of got like that kind of riot girl voice, but it's mixed with like a hardcore band. It kind of sounds like akin to like Black Flag.
yeah. Distillers.
Yeah, that kind of vibe. You got Drain that they just dropped their latest album on Epitaph that's doing great right now.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, there's just a whole bunch of bands. Incendiary just released a new album. All these different bands are like making stuff right now. It's like, holy shit, I want to buy so many of these albums and just. But then there's other things that I want to buy too. And it's like, okay, how much, like, dude, you only have so much money. Like, how many things are you going to buy?
Space and time and yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. And like, you know, things like come around in cycles, right? And I think the cycles have gotten smaller and shorter with the age of the internet. So like, you know, back in the day you would have, you know, a very rock and roll decade of like the 70s, right? A lot of guitar driven music. And then the 80s brought about synth.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, so a lot of like synth and pop and whatever. And then the 90s kind of was like a return to rock again in the mainstream.
Yeah.
And now it's like every week it feels like you're going from like rock to hip hop to synth to pop to like, there's just the internet has made it such a quick turnaround on this stuff that there isn't really those cycles like there used to be. So like the good of that is I feel like you can always discover something in any genre you want to if you're able to look for it.
Yeah.
But the bad about it is like there's not enough time to really sit with it and kind of enjoy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you're just awash in an ocean of content now, especially with all the streaming services.
Totally.
And to hit on what you said about the 70s, 80s, I would like to say about the 90s real quick. What a crazy decade for music in terms of like you start the decade with grunge. By the middle of it, it's turned into like Green Day, Rancid, Offspring, and then by the end of it, it's new metal.
yeah.
Like
and like boy band, girl band stuff too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then at the same time, like a really solid like alternative undercurrent of things that are also going on during that same time period in the 90s.
Yeah.
What a great time for music.
It is.
Yeah.
I always say, I think the 80s is like the most underrated decade for music because everyone just thinks of like, you know, and not to say that Duran Duran's bad, but they think of like Duran Duran and Soft Cell and that kind of stuff.
A lot of hair metal. Like
hair metal and like
metal hits
synth
you
pop
over and over.
And that stuff's great, but like I think a lot of people hear that and they think like cheesy production and like, you know, weird drums and stuff. But like there's a lot of good, like you got the Replacements in there and like a lot of the hardcore punk stuff and there's some interesting underground stuff too, but I don't know. I always defend the 80s because everyone always shits on on the 80s, I feel like.
I can't shit on the 80s because that's like the soundtrack of me as a kid, you know? So like,
Right.
you know, driving around in the car with my parents and listening to stuff. And you know, they were listening to like modern rock radio. And I was just I know all that shit just because I was surrounded by it growing up, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like, fuck, man, I still like Hungry Like the Wolf.
Hell yeah, dude.
Like,
That record's sweet.
Yeah.
That Duran Duran record's awesome. Rio's on there.
Yeah. Oh, if you put some Kenny Loggins on, I will get pumped up.
Yeah. But it was like, you know, the 60s, you know, you had the flower power and all that, and the 70s was still kind of the end of that era, right? And the 80s is like all the hippies grew up and got corporate jobs and started doing cocaine.
Yeah.
Like,
Everybody turned in weed and acid for coke.
Right.
And it went in a very different direction.
Yeah. And then the 90s is like, okay, we're like back in like, now it's Gen X and like, we're gonna start rocking again, and we're gonna do grunge, and you know,
Yeah.
metal came back in like a cool way. You know, there was hair metal in the '80s, but metal came back with like Alice in Chains, and you know,
Yeah, definitely. It was weird seeing like Alice in Chains and Soundgarden get like lumped in as like part of grunge, and it's like, well, they're from the same area, but these are two very fucking heavy bands.
Yeah, for
that are definitely more in a metal side of the genre as opposed to Nirvana, that I would say is more punk.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, punk and indie rock, and I mean, it's kind of cool that the thing I like about grunge is like, you know, genre is like a classification, but grunge kind of defies classification because it's much like early punk in '77 when you had like the Talking Heads and the Ramones and the New York Dolls, and like you had all these different bands that kind of, I mean, the Ramones and the New York Dolls, you can kind of see similarities, but like the Talking Heads are totally different from what those guys were doing. Those guys wore like wristwatches and were like kind of dorks, right? So it's, I don't know. I kind of like that it doesn't have like a real set in stone thing you can point to as like, oh, that's what grunge is.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
like Mudhoney doesn't sound like Alice in Chains.
no, it does not sound like.
And they're
Cat.
both great,
And
but
yeah,
you know,
yeah, and it's great stuff. You know, like and even like different vocalists and stuff. Like Eddie Vedder and Kurt Cobain are doing both in the same genre. It's like these are very different singing styles.
Totally.
Like Vedder went on to just people just like if you were on like butt rock radio, like people have Vedder voice now.
Yeah.
Where that's just like a thing where you sing like
Right.
this.
He's kind of a crooner.
Yeah.
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 And Kurt had kind of more of like a gruff, like indie rock, hardcore kind of.
Yeah. Scratchy vocals,
Yeah.
screamy,
Yeah.
but still melodic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Interesting time. Well, how do you feel about this, man? Like, so actually, this is a great segue. So, an album I've been looking at getting for a while has been Smashing Pumpkins' "Siamese Dream," and like right now, the cheapest I've seen it for is $48. Like, it's getting really expensive to collect records. Like, how's your wallet feeling when you go to the store lately?
It's expensive.
It's
Billy
getting up
Corgan
there.
needs his money though, man.
Sure. Well, he has to go buy more professional wrestling companies and run them. into the
Yeah,
ground.
right. Run him into the ground.
Yeah.
I think that I think there's like a lot of reasons for that, right? It's expensive. And anything, collecting anything right now is expensive. Buying anything is
agreed,
expensive. I
agreed.
think that, you know, like economic standards being what they are, it's like, yeah, shit's just fucking expensive.
Yeah. Inflation has hit.
Inflation, recession, all that stuff, you know. And then like on top of that, with the record industry specifically, you've got like the backups at pressing plants and things
Yes.
like that. And yeah, I think that all just leads into cost going up. So things that used to be $20 or $15 are now like 30 or 45.
Yeah, and it's a good thing and a bad thing when the market is there. Because on one hand, it's like, oh man, I got to pay more. But on the other hand, it's like, well, I know shit's gonna get made because it's that it's the whole thing where it's like the more a collection or a hobby is making, the more shit they're gonna make because the more shit they make is more shit they can sell.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, all right, cool. So it's like, okay, I have hope that I'm gonna get more albums that I want and by bands and stuff gets reissued and all that, and it's like it's gonna happen. But
My philosophy around that right now is to try and buy stuff from indie labels and independent producers as much as possible, bands that are signed to little tiny things,
Yep.
Sort of unknown bands, because the guys like at EMI or Warner or something, those guys, their prices are going up too, but they have huge contracts, and those guys are just inflating their margins on the product they're making. So they're just stacking cash right now, right? But if you're buying stuff from like independents, I think it makes a big difference.
Yeah, no, you're helping somebody like chase their dream and live their life, and putting gas in the van and getting them
Totally.
to create more stuff. Like I think there is something about that. Like I do like the idea of like Patreons and stuff, and having ways to say thank you to people for making content, or like if I go out to a show, like picking up merch or something, just saying, hey man, thanks for making something that entertains me, and especially
Absolutely.
nowadays when a lot of stuff that entertains me is free.
Yeah, totally.
Or-
Merch is huge, especially for like touring bands and stuff.
Yeah.
Not that I know because I've never been in a touring band, but from what I hear, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So
Well, and now they're going through a horrible thing right now with like venues taking cuts of merch. That's fucking crazy.
yeah. I mean, and I know it's crazy. The one reference I always hear in regards to that is actually with regards to like Rage Against the Machine, just because of the name of the band. And they're like, you were out raging against the machine, and now your tour tickets cost $150
Yeah.
per. So you are the machine,
Yeah.
there's this whole like total mind fuck that's happening. It's not their fault. They're obviously like at the
Yeah.
mercy of Live Nation or whoever, books their tour. But like, yeah, it's kind of messed up.
Yeah, it would definitely have to be weird to be Rage Against the Machine, where it's like we're communists, that are worth multiple millions of dollars.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
it's like and it is the trap because it's like, look, we're just creating art that like happened to hit, but in the face of it hitting it, it like topples over everything, you know, what we're supposed to be standing for, and it's like a weird mesh where these two things meet.
Yeah, it's like it's almost hypocrisy. I mean, it is kind of hypocrisy, but you know, those guys do. I think they do really mean the best, and they have said as much in interviews like we really don't want ticket prices to be what they are,
Yeah.
but it's the only way we can tour or whatever. And it's like
Because the cost of touring is insane right now. Like there's bands that are retiring from touring because of the cost of touring.
yeah.
Right
Well,
now.
I mean those guys like those like Rage Against the Machine type bands, they they could go to like a small venue and say, hey, we want to play here.
Yeah.
And they could play there, but then it would be like pandemonium to get ticket. It would be unreasonable.
it'd be nuts.
Because they're a concert venue band. Like they have
Yeah.
to be in a huge venue, and so to do that, you have to go through these companies that have the contracts with those places,
Yeah.
and they're the ones that set the ticket prices. So it's like, yeah. I mean, it's above my head
Yeah.
to some degree because I don't know all the ins and outs of that industry, but it's definitely not great.
No. Yeah.
It just doesn't seem good from my wallet or like from a distance. It's like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I also always laugh when and this even happened recently with do you know a political commentator named Tim Pool?
No, I'm not familiar.
He he tries to say he's a centrist, but he's very much like on the right side of politics.
Okay.
And like recently Tom Morello made a statement where he was like, if you're at a table and there's 10 people at a table and one person is a Nazi and 9 people don't say anything, then there's 10 Nazis at a table. Mm-hmm. And Tim Pool was like, what's this about? And was like just totally aghast that like Tom Morello would make the statement. It's like, have you listened to Rage Against the Machine? Because you say that you have, and it seems like you would get that this is a very Tom Morello thing to say. And the fact that you're like confused by this weirds me out. There was also Paul Ryan was like that, like the guy who used to be,
I knew that one.
Yeah, like he was like, oh, my favorite band to listen to while I work out is Rage Against the Machine. It's like, do you ever listen to that and kind of think about things?
They don't listen to the lyrics. They're just like, I like this, like the scratching record and the guitar with the kill switch.
But like, how do you miss the lyrics when it's
know.
like? I mean, okay, I would get it if it was like, if it was
Or
like,
the music video that's interspersed with like pictures of buildings falling down and George W. Bush ordering like bombs to be nuking into the Middle East. Like, maybe you should like rewatch that.
them going to Wall Street to perform a music video and like freaking people out and all this shit. Yeah, and it's just like, how did you miss that? And then there's a weird thing that like listening to music and not listening to the lyrics. Like, okay, I would get it if like if they sang like Cannibal Corpse, and it's like, okay, I could see I missed the lyrics on that one, but like it's very obvious what Zach De La Rocha is saying.
Yeah, I think so too. It's kind of, I think, I guess it goes to show that reading comprehension is not everybody's strong, or listening comprehension is not everybody's strong suit.
No, I would have to agree with that. Well, look, man, let's get into the main part of tonight, dude. Let's talk Magic the Gathering.
Let's do it.
So, all right. This is now when you reached out to me and you were like, hey, if you ever need a collection episode, I got you. And you threw Magic the Gathering at me. I was like, oh, I got questions. Let's go.
Hell yeah.
So, all right, man. So let's start with this. Like, when did you first get into it and what attracted you to the game? Like, what age were you? Where were you at in life? Like, how did you first stumble upon this?
I have very vivid memories of the first time I played Magic the Gathering because it was in the mid-'90s. And so my mom's family, we used to go to this camp in Indiana. It was like a Girl Scout camp back in the day called Camp Mardi Gras. And to put this in perspective, my mom is one of 15, so there's like a shitload of cousins. And the only way we can all get together is like if we go to a place like this, right? For like a vacation kind of thing.
Right.
So we went to this place called Camp Mardi Gras. There's like a lake with horse flies the size of your fist that just like sucked. But it was a lot of fun, and you like hung out with cousins and stuff. So I want to say it was around like 96 or 97, somewhere in there. And a couple of my older cousins who were like 4, 5, 6 years older than me were playing this card game on the table. And like I said, I was like 7 years old. And they like showed me how you play it. And that was Magic the Gathering. And that was the first time I ever played it or saw it played. And that was kind of, I remember watching and there was like skeletons and goblins. And I'd already read like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings at this point, with my dad. And so I was into this stuff, and I was like, this is fucking awesome. Like, I want to play this card game. And then I went and like talked to my mom, and she's like, yeah, we'll get you some satanic cards and you can have like crazy goblins and stuff. So, yeah, that was pretty much the jumping off point for me, and I've been playing it ever since.
Nice. I like that your mom endorsed your satanic like cards.
She didn't say those words, but she was definitely like, I'm sure it was my mom that like went to Meijer with me and like helped me buy a pack of cards.
I definitely was not allowed to play D&D when I was a kid because my mom was wrapped up in satanic panic, and she and she was like, "No, I heard it. No, that's not good. You can't have
She
that."
saw it on Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah. Oprah talked about it.
Yeah,
My mom
right.
was like, "No."
Yeah.
And it's like, cool. You're gonna let me watch Predator with Dad, but here's where we're drawing a line. This seems weird, lady, but okay.
Well, it's funny because parents, when you're raising kids, like they hear one thing, and now I'm a parent, right? So I have 2 kids. So you like hear something about a thing, but you might not hear something about another thing. But the one thing that sticks with you, you're like, oh, I don't want my kid around that because I heard this thing.
Yeah.
So like my mom didn't like that I would watch like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom with my dad because there's like a heart getting ripped out of a guy's chest. But she's like, it's fine that you can like play with skeletons and goblins and like, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
it's totally cool.
So
I think it was cool when moms walked in on Ren and Stimpy.
oh, my mom hated Ren and Stimpy, but my dad loved it, and so we watched it.
Yeah, because that's totally a thing that moms are just gonna instantly hate. What is this?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that is disgusting. That is so disgusting.
I love Ren and Stimpy so much.
Oh, it's so great. It's
the best.
Like the extreme close-ups inside of noses and everything.
Or like teeth rotting out.
Yeah.
I was like, so my son Archie, who's 3 now, I was like talking to my wife the other day. I was like, Archie, I think it's time we probably start watching some Ren and Stimpy episodes. And my wife's like, absolutely not. And I was like, what do you mean? Come on, it's like just a cartoon. She's like, are you serious? So
You're like,
it comes around, it goes around. It's.
You're like, look, we can watch this or we can watch Bugs Bunny. And I'm honestly, the
Hey.
Bugs Bunny ones might be way more racist. So
Some of them definitely are.
yeah, so let's go with this instead, huh?
Yeah, I mean, we watch the Bugs Bunny, but I don't think they have any of the super racist ones on like HBO Max anymore. Yeah, we watch the clean ones.
100%. Oh shit. So okay, so at this time, are you like 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there? Like, are you junior high?
Yeah, so 7 years old was when I first saw it, got to play it. And then like 8, 9, 10, that's when I started really getting into it. And in junior high school, middle school, that's like, so this is way back in the day. I mean, I brought a case of cards with me. You'll see them over there. And I have them like all sleeved up and stuff. But back in that time period, it was like you just threw your cards in a box in your backpack, like one of the little starter boxes, or you like wrapped them up in a rubber band and threw it in your backpack. So they got like beat to hell, and like you just walked around with it in your backpack all day. You know what I mean? But we would play like on recess, on the lunch table, that kind of thing. A lot of kids were playing it back then, and it was just like a fun way to spend your time.
Nice, man. Yeah. Okay. So that is a very interesting point you bring up about the idea of like traveling with a collection, because it's both first it's a functioning collection.
Correct.
Like it's a game. So like you got to have these to make the thing work, but at the same time, because of the level of artwork that is involved, it's also, I don't know if fashion is the right word, but there is an artistic side to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's 100%. I would say like when I got into it, the game aspect of it was really fun and I liked playing it a lot, but as equally important to me was the artwork because it was cool as hell.
Yeah.
And at the time, I always knew I wanted to be an artist, which I ended up studying art, and we've talked about this before. But at the time, I was like drawing comic books, and my main influences were like superhero comics, Calvin and Hobbes, Far Side, all that kind of stuff that you get into as a kid, and animated cartoons like Heavy Metal and things like that, right? And like, so magic was just like another layer of that. So my younger brother and I both became artists, studied art in college, whatever. But we both were into all this stuff, and magic was just like, oh, so we like Lord of the Rings, and this is just like Lord of the Rings type stuff on cards with a cool game we can play. And we can also like take these cards out when we're drawing in our sketchbooks and copy the skeleton and like learn how to draw a skeleton or learn how to draw a goblin and then like make our own version of a goblin. So that was like a huge part of it for me as a kid too, for sure.
When did you see yourself like start to make that transition from, okay, I'm going to wrap a rubber band around, I'm going to throw them back in the box, to what we're seeing today? So listener, to describe what's over here, it's like a fucking tackle box kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's like a for tools, like you get like to carry, it's like a little tackle box you would carry like different size screws in. And so I didn't have one of those until like within the last 5 years.
Sure.
Right. So growing up, I was always pretty fastidious and like kept good care of my stuff as a kid. So most kids would like throw a rubber band around and throw them in their backpack. But they used to come when you bought like a starter deck from Magic the Gathering. It would come in like a 60 card, like a little box. So like perfectly, that 60 cards is what a deck was back in the day. And so it fit decks perfectly. So you'd buy one of those and you get booster packs. You'd build your deck out. And I always kept mine in those boxes to keep them like nice. Because always wanted to keep them kind of like as close to pristine as I could, even as a kid, for whatever reason. So I would keep them in these little boxes as a kid, basically. They had like the art of the main card on it. So it was kind of cool. It kind of like let you know like what the deck was about. And then basically like to get to the tackle box, I played all through middle school, on and off in high school, and then didn't really play in college at all because I wasn't going to take like Magic cards to college with me.
Because girls, yeah.
Yeah, right.
You can't, yeah.
And then I would say like 2 years out of college, like a year or two out of college or something like that, you start to like hang out with people and you're an adult, right? And you have disposable income. And I started realizing that other people played Magic when they were kids and like, in middle school and high school and stuff. And you start to talk to other folks. Actually, one of our mutual friends, Matt Feist, who worked at Moreland.
Oh, yeah.
So that was one of the first people I played with, like,
Oh,
as an
really?
adult.
Hell yeah, dude.
And you're like, oh, shit. Like, when you're a kid, you would go to Meijer and you'd, like, maybe buy, like, a booster pack. Or you'd buy, like, 2 booster packs. And you're an adult. You're like, I can just buy, like, 30 of these things at once. And it's, like, expensive. But you're like, but it's not going to kill me. Like, as a kid, that was not an option.
Right.
So now you realize you can, like, spend money on cards that you couldn't as a kid. So it becomes a hobby. And then that's, like, when, you buy tackle. You start to see other people, what they're doing. Everyone's getting, everyone in their 30s is getting back into this hobby they had when they were a kid. And you're seeing people are like, oh, this card is, like, only been printed once. It's kind of hard to get. So I'm going to put this in a sleeve so it doesn't get beat to hell when I'm playing it. And then I'm like, okay. And I resisted for a long time. It's like, it's just a kid's card game. Like, I'm just going to play it like I always did. And then someone's like, you're sitting there playing. Someone's like, that's worth $40. And you're like,
oh.
You're like, I mean, I'm not going to sell it, but I should probably just take care of it.
Make this look nice.
Yeah. So then you buy a tackle box and you get the sleeves and you're like sliding them in there. So it's a lot like how people take care of their comic books,
For
right?
sure, yeah.
But these are game pieces, so you're still playing with them. So there's these little sleeves you put them in. You can still penny sleeves, and you can still play with them and stuff.
Nice.
But yeah, that's basically how you get to that point.
Are long boxes used for this?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So typically, like if you've got a pretty good sized collection, you'll use a long box. And that'll be like your stuff that is not in decks. So decks, I put in like that thing.
Time out for 1 second here.
Yeah.
Because this is something I've been running about on the show. Some people might not know what a long box is or definition of it. So listener, a long box, if you hang out with people that have comic books, they're traditionally like the big white boxes that you will see in comic shops. And then you can store your single issues in there. And they also have them for cards as well for both people that play Magic the Gathering or people that collect like baseball, football, whatever kind of cards.
Pokemon.
Yeah, Pokemon.
Right.
Yeah. And then you just have these big like white nondescript boxes that you can just put your shit in.
Yeah. Yeah. So we use those for cards too. And basically, like for me, I use this to store my decks that are built that I'm like, these are things I can play. And then the long boxes I use for like my extra cards that may or may not go into a deck at some point in time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. They're on the bench. If you need them,
pretty
they're
much.
there.
Yeah. Or it's stuff you're like, this is not very good. I'll never use it. I'm just putting it in here to like have it out of the way. It's going in a closet.
This lives here now. Everybody else has this.
Yeah.
And now we all have this.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, this sits in the back.
Right.
So, again, this is one of those things where I'm coming in, we're like, I know of Magic the Gathering and I've had friends that play it and I understand, like, but I only have
Can I tell a funny story actually?
Go for it.
Jason, your buddy who was on the podcast a couple episodes ago, I just ran into him at Target the other day.
Really?
And I was like, hey, I haven't finished the episode yet, but I was like, hey, I'm listening to the episode on What You Into with Tank, and you're on there. And I was like, I'm about to be on there like this Monday. This is literally last week. He's like, oh yeah, what are you going to talk about? And we had met each other at an art show a couple years ago, and he's like, oh, hey, what's up? So we were just talking. And I was like, I'll be on there for Magic. He's like, I just got back into Magic. He's like, I just started playing Magic. It's like, dude. And then we're sitting in Target in the aisle by like the beer section because I was there for work checking the set. And so we just like talked about Magic for a little bit. I was like, hey man, like we got to play together, like for sure. So I think we're gonna get together and play at some point. I had to, because you're talking about friends, that it's funny because Magic is like this thing, and back to my point about like as an adult realizing lots of people play this. It's this thing that like there's tons of people that you would never expect.
Oh sure.
That play this game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. There's like I've met guys who are like 65 years old that are like, oh yeah, I play Magic the Gathering.
Oh yeah.
And you meet people who are like, you think of it as like it's like D&D. There's like this perception of it's like the dorky hobby, right? And then you meet these people and you're like, you're just like a regular dude, or you're like a fucking cool guy.
Yeah.
And you're playing this game that's like this fantasy sort of. So I don't know. It's awesome. I love that it like brings all kinds of different walks of life to a thing like that.
Again, this is where the internet has broke nerd culture in a good way, where it's like growing up, like before the internet, like it was really hard to like talk about nerdy hobbies outside of your friend group, because then it was like you would run into the thing of being like, what are you, a fucking pussy?
Yeah.
Like, why are you like you're playing kids card games?
Or they'd say something worse than that.
Yeah, exactly. That was the PC version.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And it's just like, so you were just kind of like, I got to kind of hide this side of me until I find somebody like,
yeah,
hey man, is this cool? Are you into this? But now it's like everybody their shit's out there, and Comic Cons are gigantic, and the Marvel movies, and everybody's like, I'm a nerd. And it's like, okay, well, sure.
Dude, Post Malone plays Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, exactly.
You know who that is.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah. I know
and not
Posty.
that he's like the coolest guy alive or anything, but he's like somebody that people, I'm sure, like look up to and stuff. So I don't know. It's just, it's crazy.
Yeah. And it's cool. And I do appreciate the fact now that there is that thing of people that are into like nerdy hobbies and will plant that flag and be like, hey man, I'm into this shit.
Yeah.
And if you're into it too, cool, awesome. Yeah, it's like before we got on mic, you and I going back and forth about like, video games we're playing right now, and our love of like the Fallout series.
Yeah.
That's very fucking nerdy.
Yeah, it is.
It's very nerdy. Like we are in love with a universe in which a weird alternate America happens, where World War II happens, and then we decide that nuclear energy is everything, and we end up fighting the Chinese in Alaska, and then nuclear bombs fall. Like, it's a wild ass fucking thing, but I love it.
Yeah, it's awesome. I agree. I think it's one of the best things to come out of like the internet era is that people are like, it seems like, I mean, as much as like we still have people that are not accepting of different things,
sure.
right? It seems like interests, which once would have been like very alienating for a person, have become way more acceptable.
Yes.
And so and part of that too is like the culture has embraced it. So you've got things like D&D being shown in television shows as like something that people enjoy, and then you're all of a sudden like everyone's playing D&D, and people are like, damn, D&D is kind of sick. And you're like, yeah, it always has been. If you were like just willing to take a chance and actually like see what it's about, you probably would enjoy it.
Yeah, get past the stereotype.
It's so much easier. Like, it's so much more comfortable and easier to plant that flag and be like, yeah, I'm into this. It's cool. Yeah, it's awesome. I hang out with my boys and we play cards or do D&D or talk about Fallout or whatever, and it's sick.
Yeah,
so
it's a good time. Okay, so here's this is one of those parts where I'm going to try to explain what I think I know, and then you fill in the gaps where I fuck this up.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so Magic the Gathering is a one-on-one game.
Not always. And in fact, in recent years, it's almost never. I mean, it is played one-on-one, but
we're tag teaming now.
Well, I'm gonna go tell you why you're wrong.
Okay, hook it up.
You're like half right. So back in the day in the 90s, Magic was like a 60 card format. You build a deck with 60 cards in it.
Okay.
You could have 4 of any. So you could have 4 copies of a card in your deck at most. Lands, you can have multiples of like basic lands, but everything else you could have 4 copies. And you played with 60 cards, and that was the game, right? I mean, there's like subtle differences within that I'm not going to get into, but for all intents and purposes, that was the game. In recent years, within the last, I'd say like 10 years though, there's a new format called EDH or Commander that has come about, which is more centered on kitchen table Magic, which is what people call like casual, like just playing with your buddies around a kitchen table. And that one is 100 card deck. And you have one of those cards as your commander. And he's like your general of your deck. You can play him from this command zone, which is kind of outside of the game. And then the rest of the deck, again, basic lands, you can have as many as you want, but the rest of it is singleton. So you can only have 1 copy of every card.
Oh.
So this new format is you can play it 1-on-1, but typically people play it in like groups of 4.
Because of the size of the deck that you have to have.
Well, it's just because that's the way that it was designed to be played.
Okay.
I guess I don't specifically know like the reason for that, but it's kind of like built to be a communal thing, more of a social game.
And so when you're saying we're playing in, as a group of 4, so it'd be like, is it me versus 3 other people?
So that's again where it gets complicated because there's versions where you'll play like 1-on-3. There's versions where you play 2-on-2. There's like 2-headed dragon is like one of them, or 2-headed giant. I forget what they call it. Somebody's going to be roasting me from home or in their car. But there's like multiple versions of Commander you can do. There's also one called Plane Chase, where there's like a card in the middle that's big that you can flip, and it does different stuff to the whole game while you're playing. But it can be like four. The way I usually play is it's 4 people all going at each other.
Okay.
So then there's lots of like table politics that happen too, where you're like, oh, I'm going to help you, but like don't attack me next turn.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, yes, it's a 1-on-1 game, but oftentimes nowadays it's more people playing.
That's cool.
And like back in the day with 60 card, I would play with like a group of 4 too. But specifically, I feel like nowadays there's more about like a social thing, and there's more of like a get people together kind of deal.
That's really interesting to hear that like there was an evolution to the play set of the game to evolve how the game is played.
Yeah. Well, and so there's like multiple different play styles you can do too. There's other variations. There's another one that's becoming popular now called Dan Dan, which is actually the name of a card from one of the early sets. It's the Forgetful Fish. And it's like that is a 1-on-1 game, and there's one deck of cards, and you and your opponent draw from the same deck, and the whole thing is about like interactions against each other, and it's like totally bizarre. It's really fun, but it's like a very different version of. So it's cool because you have like a set of rules for these cards and how they're played and how the game style works, but you can kind of build different games out of the way that it's like D&D in that regard, that like D&D is sort of a structure, and you can do like single shot D&D. You can do D&D that takes 6 months. You can do, you know what I mean?
Well, and on some level, it's almost like just playing cards in general, where it's like if you get a deck of cards, you can play solitaire,
right?
You can play blackjack,
exactly.
you can play poker. Like there's just all this different shit you can do with the deck.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, all right, well, yeah, here's this base level, but like, what do you want to do with it, and how do you want to play a game?
The only difference with Magic is like the level. There's like so many different abstractions that can come from the deck because there's new rules invented, or not new rules, but like new variations on rules that are invented all the time. So games can go so differently. Like every time you play, it can be totally different for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? Like there's that many different ways to play the game.
So as somebody outside of the circle of this game, this sounds so daunting to try to get into.
It is.
But at the same time, this was originally made for fucking children. So
right.
Okay. So what's the catch? What's the in between? Like how do you learn?
I think it can be daunting. I think the biggest thing that people get hung up on is like they're like, it can be so expensive, because they start looking at stuff and they're like, wow, this is kind of an expensive hobby. If you didn't start playing it like 10 years ago or whatever. So 2 things. There are like starter decks that can teach you the game, and you can learn really quickly in like a weekend or whatever, in the afternoon. And then there's also now like online, so you can play it online and learn how to play online. And then once you kind of have a grasp on the game, you can like invest in cards if you want to.
Okay. That's a cool way to do it.
Yeah. And personally, like the online is cool. Like it's not, to me, as someone who's been playing since the mid 90s.
Yeah.
It's a lot more fun for me to play with people in person.
Sure.
Which was why, like, I went to great lengths during COVID to like try and figure out ways to like rig up cameras and like play over the internet with a person theoretically, even though it's like online. So like online is great because it does introduce new people to the game that would otherwise never pick it up. But like, to me, the most pure way to play is with the cards, which of course is expensive to like buy a thing.
Right.
But I think it's more fun just to like build things, and like, I don't know, I like looking through cards, and
and sure,
again, I'm the record collector, so I like flipping through things and like looking for,
you are a collector.
the specific thing I want.
You love physical media. you love picking shit up.
Yeah.
It's in a fucking package.
Yeah.
You get to keep it nice and neat. You are a collector, my friend.
It's true.
And that's why I love you, and that's why I love having you on the show.
You want to know the funniest thing about collecting Magic cards? I'll tell you today.
Throw it at me.
Is that they have changed the way they make Magic cards in the last 30 years. 'Cause it's like a 30-year-old game now. And when the smell of the cards from like the 90s and the smell of the cards now is not the same.
They have different smells.
Yeah. So like when you opened a pack of cards in the 90s and you smelled it, it had a very like, it's like such a nostalgic, like, it's, you know how you like smell gas and you think of like your bus at recess or something or at school? It's like that kind of a smell for me that I can like picture it in my head. And like the new cards don't smell like that.
Smell is the most memory producing scent, or not scent, but
it draws on
memory.
It draws on memory.
Yeah. So like if you see something, you might be like, oh, I remember seeing that one time. But like but like smells or something, if you smell something, you can instantly go back in time to where you were like, oh, I smelled that before and it was here.
Yeah. You're like in somebody's basement and you like just bought a house and you like take a sniff and you're like, oh, this smells like my grandma's house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're 100%. Like, and now you're in your grandma's house.
Yeah.
In 1993.
Exactly.
And you're like, holy shit.
100%.
Right.
100%.
Totally.
So okay. One of the other things I gotta ask is like, with so we've kind of determined that we've set that strategy depends on the game, and you know, if it's 1v1 or 1v4, however you want to set, again, it depends on the game.
It's so hard to talk about.
Hey, hey, dude, we're getting through this. We got this.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's awesome. It's just like there's so many. It's such a big concept to kind of form down here.
If X happens, but then Y subtracts
like,
A to the second power divided by pi.
Yeah.
So okay. Can you have bad guys and good guys in the same deck? Like, can you? How does assembling a deck work? Like, how do you figure out what the fuck you're bringing to the table? Whether it's 60 cards or it's 100 cards, like, how do you determine what you're bringing?
Okay, so I feel like we should have talked about this like way sooner, and that's probably my fault and not yours. Because in a game of Magic the Gathering, the idea is that you and I, if we're playing each other, we're playing one-on-one right now. You and I are planeswalkers, and we have these decks, which are our spells. Everything in the deck is a spell, and we are trying to defeat each other, and we each have a life total. And to defeat each other, we reduce each other's life total to 0. That's basically how you win the game.
Is there a set life total, or do you just like pick a number? Like,
so different formats have different life total settings. Okay. So like standard or modern or like 60 card, it was like 20 life. EDH, which is the popular style that most people play these days, is a 40 life total. And that's because you have 100 cards, so it's like a little bit of a longer game. So we would be sitting across from each other, and we're casting spells from our deck, right? And those spells can be creatures or spells that do damage directly to your life total or do other things that somehow interact with the game. And everything we do with that deck of spells is basically to try and defeat the person across from you. Okay. Does that make sense? Now it's like starting to like, we should have started with that, because then the concept is like, okay, here we go.
Thank you.
Instead of just going out into the ether.
This frames it. This is like when I did the Warhammer 40K episode with Ian, and he's like, well, yeah, but there's like, you know, there's different clans that you pick. And I'm like, oh shit. And, you know, it's like, okay, now I get that it's like structured. Like you have to pick your clan and who you are and what you do.
Right. So deck building in Magic is like picking your clan. But with deck building, you're like, so you don't know what the other person's building your deck out of. So you can build your deck however you want, but you're trying to think of a creative way to take down your opponent. So a lot of times you do things with deck building where you're like, this is an original way that they might not think of, that they might not have a way to stop me to beat them. Yeah. So, or there's people like, sometimes I like to build decks where I'm like, this is just really hilarious and like a silly way to beat somebody. And I want to try and beat somebody with a silly way to beat somebody. You know what I'm saying? Right. So there's lots of different ways to approach it.
And you are like this god character thing where like, it's not, so, cause like if you think of D&D, you have a dungeon master and they're leading you through the story. Warhammer, you have your factions, clans, but again, you're one-on-one, you're versing somebody, you have armies fighting. Yeah. And then in this, you're kind of more like a godlike character where it's like, you're not commanding something that's good or evil. It's just, these are creatures. These are like, so you can have like a paladin in the same deck as like a fucking gargoyle and
or a zombie.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, they're on the same team sort of kind of. Yeah. Because as this,
because you're basically like
you're
creatures,
commanding them.
You're summoning them to the battlefield. Yeah. And then they're attacking the opponent.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So in fact, like in early Magic, creatures were called summon creatures because you summoned them from your deck. Your deck was your spell, so you summoned them. And so like there was different spells that would do like direct damage, like I said, or there's spells that counter creatures or counter spells. And that means like if you tried to summon a zombie to your battlefield, I could play one of these spells and like destroy that zombie before it ever reaches the battlefield.
I guess that's why it's called Magic the Gathering. Fuck, dude. So many things just like for years. I'm like, oh, that's a fucking stupid name. Like, why do they call it the Gathering?
Right.
It's like, are they juggalos? What's happening here?
Yeah,
now
man,
I'm like, oh, cool. I get it.
How did magnets even work?
Yeah,
man?
fuck. I don't know, dude. Honestly, I don't. I'm really bad at STEM subjects. Okay. So yeah, dude, thank you for dropping a major puzzle piece in there because so many things are clicking now about this. All right. So how does the universe of this, how does the continuity of this work? Okay. So when I think of collecting cards, I grew up as a kid collecting baseball cards and stuff like that, basketball cards. So like every year Upper Deck would release like 1992, 1993 baseball set if you wanted to buy it, or you could buy the individual cards. You could choose however you wanted to consume that. Is that the way Magic works? Are they releasing like yearly things where you can just buy everything they release that year? Or is it multiple, like, do they release multiple things in a year that are like different universes? Like, how the fuck does this work?
Yeah, so it is definitely a complicated question. They release multiple sets a year. So every year they release, I would say, well, it's changed because in the early days of Magic, they would release like 4 sets a year or something like that. And now it's like 15, 16, 20, I don't even know. But it's a ton of sets. But yeah, each set is kind of taking place in a different world. So you'll have like, it's a complicated question because they used to do blocks, which were like 3 sets together, which would be related in some way. Mm-hmm. And they would tell an overarching story. But now they kind of tell one story per set, and those kind of overlap sometimes. That's neither here nor there. They release sets, and they're in booster packs of random occurring cards. And you buy booster packs to get the cards in the new set. And there's like common cards, uncommon cards, rare cards, and then new to me because I've been playing for a long time, but there's also newly mythic cards, which are like the highest rarity. And you like always get a rare card, but you don't always get a mythic card. You always get 2 uncommons. You always get like 10 commons or whatever the rate is. So you open these packs and you get cards from the set, and the sets are always somehow tied together with a theme. So there will be like a set that is evocative of classic fairy tales like Brothers Grimm. Mm-hmm. And then there's a set that's like medieval knights. And then there's a set that's like zombies and merfolk. And then there's like a dinosaur set. And then, so they're always like, and they're all that, so they call the players planeswalkers. And there's actually cards in the game called Planeswalkers too. And basically the idea is there's an overarching story of kind of a multiverse sort of thing, which this is newer. Like in the 90s, this didn't exist. And they've kind of come up with this in recent years as, of course, everything is going to multiverses. But it allows them to kind of jump between different planes, is what they call them, and with different worlds. And tell these different stories with different characters and stuff. So you can have like a fairy set with fairies and knights and wizards, and then you can have dinosaurs and merfolk and pirates, and then you can go to this other thing, and then they can all meet in a big set at the end of the year, and they can all fight, and then there's a restructuring, and they have a new thing that comes later.
Is there a set number to a set? Like if I go buy a set, is it always like 60 cards, or are there some sets where it's like, this is a set of 12, this is a set of 30?
Yeah, there's like, so the sets are going to have, usually there's different size sets and stuff. And I think they're mostly like 100 or a couple hundred cards. Don't quote me on that. I don't know.
Sure.
But there's always like a bunch of cards per set, different things. And like I said, there's different rarities. So people who have like collected Pokemon cards or Yu-Gi-Oh or something like that will understand. And even sports cards are getting this now too, because they're doing like numbered rarity and rare borders and things. So it's like that whole rarity thing within. It's basically playing lottery when you buy booster packs.
That really has become the thing that's happened with collecting cards now. Is like you'll see that in sports cards now, where they have like the jersey cards where they like take scissors, they clip up somebody's jersey, and then like you might get like a patch of their jersey on there. I know that WWE is doing that now with like you can get like part of the ring apron from like SummerSlam or some shit. Yep. You know, it's just all this like rarity one-off stuff that's it becomes a lottery system where it's like because it is that same thing. It's akin to pulling the lever on a fucking slot machine or playing the lottery. We get the scratch off card. It's like, I don't know what's in this. It might be fucking gold though.
There's that I'm not a big Family Guy fan, but there is that one Family Guy where he's like, I could buy the box. And they're like, but you could buy this thing. He's like, but the box might have this thing in it. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
And it's like the human want to like go buy the thing that they don't know what's going to be in it. Just to open it and like be like let down by the fact that it's like a bunch of garbage.
Oh fuck! What was that game back in the day where it was like that was like a game show in the 70s or 80s where let's make a deal.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Where
totally.
And then they even spoofed that in like the UHF movie,
right?
Where
oh, God,
where it's like what's in the box and and it's like nothing, absolutely nothing.
You got nothing. You played yourself, DJ Khaled.
Yeah, exactly, 100%.
Yeah, but it's interesting because like it's essentially like lottery. You're hoping you get the cards you want, but if you're smart, instead of spending the money on buying the packs, just go buy the one card you want, even if it's more, because you can buy single cards now, and like obviously the more valuable cards are more expensive, and so just go buy the one card you need instead of like wasting your money on like 15 packs to get that one card.
This is a fucking dangerous intersection, dude.
Yeah, it is.
This is a very dangerous intersection of collecting because you're combining both random chance that hits the dopamine drip of gambling and all that kind of thing in the human brain, and also the collector side of the human brain where it's like, ooh, I like this thing. I want to have more of this thing.
So people, I will say this, like back in the day, there was more people who would collect the entire set and get like one copy of every card from a set. So in the 90s, especially like Ice Age, Dark, the Dark Legends, those sets, people would like buy single cards at their local comic store or buy packs to be able to like fill out a binder where they had a binder full, like one card of every set. Cause they're like, this is cool. It's a collection. So some people did that and some people play the game aside from that. But now there are so many sets coming out because they're obviously they're a business, they're trying to make money.
Monopolizing
that they're making way too much product. So I almost never hear about people doing that anymore.
Really?
So most of the time, I mean, there are people that collect cards, but it's mostly as game pieces anymore. Or to flip them before they get reprinted. In which case, when like a card that's only been printed once gets reprinted, usually the price tanks. So there are people that
it's like a record in that regard.
Yeah, or like comic books are definitely like something you can compare it to.
Yeah, comics. Yeah, would be a good. Yeah, because like if you get the original printing of a comic book, that is something different as opposed to like right now Marvel's doing reissues, but they're like $1 a piece or something,
right? Where
they're reissuing like famous.
There is one thing though. So you've probably like the one card that everyone knows from Magic the Gathering is the Black Lotus, right? That's like, you've never heard of it. Okay. So the Black Lotus is like one of the most famous Magic the Gathering cards because it's like very powerful. And it was very hard to get a copy because it was only printed in the first 3 sets, which are Alpha, Beta, and Unlimited, which were very small print runs back in 93. And then they I guess they printed it technically also in like the collector's edition, but that's a whole other bag of worms. But basically, this is like one of the most powerful early cards in the game. It's part of this group of cards called the Power 9, which are like very, very powerful cards that they'll never reprint. And part of that's because they're part of the reserved list, which is this other thing that is like the cards that Wizard of the Coast like swore they'll never reprint. It's for whatever reason, they're like, we're never going to reprint these cards. And there's like a couple hundred cards on there from the early days of Magic. And so those cards hold a ton of value because people know it's almost like an investment piece for some people, which is crazy.
100%.
So the more powerful the card, if it's on that list, it's like worth a ton of money. So like the Black Lotus, which is like one of the most well-known cards in the history of Magic, sold for like $500,000.
Holy
like
shit.
Like a graded, you know how you can get like Beckett graded comics?
Yeah.
So like a Beckett graded Black Lotus, like Gem Mint 10 or whatever they call it. Mm-hmm. Sold for like $500,000. And people are like, what? And it's a piece of cardboard, dude. It's a game piece, you know? Like, but because they'll never print it again, it has all this like, it's crazy.
I mean, isn't that the same thing that art has been doing for years where it's just like, hey, this thing's important. And because it's important and all these people deem it important, this is now worth X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you decide that? It's like,
yeah.
this is what it is. Take it or leave it. And somebody was like, I'll fucking buy that. And it's like, well, that's what it's worth.
Yeah. Some like diamond guy from South Africa that has like $1 jillion.
Yeah. Just,
Elon Musk is like, I need that Black Lotus for my collection. He's just gonna put it on. He's gonna put it in a drawer. He's not even gonna look at it.
yeah, he's just gonna like throw it in, when he's at the Twitter office crying about how he's fucking crashing that thing. He's like, what the fuck? Man,
Takes it in outer space. With
yeah, at least I got this Black Lotus. I can at least go to outer space. It's fine. It's okay. But yeah, man, no, it is a weird thing where, well, and again, it becomes that whole thing of like, the price of something is dictated by the love of the collection, by the people and the fans of it. Where, there's people like me, if I saw a Black Lotus, I wouldn't know. And you're like, that card's worth more than your house. Yeah. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, like most Magic the Gathering cards are not worth a house. Mm-hmm. They're not even worth like a sports car. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But those couple cards that are like that kind of high echelon of value, perceived or whatever, it's insane. It's insane to think about. Yeah.
And it's cool too. And I think that is a fun part of collecting is like, it's
Action Comics 1. You know what I mean? Exactly. It's that kind of thing where you're like, why is this worth this money? It's because there's so very few of them. The
Honus Wagner baseball card.
Right.
I've never seen Honus Wagner play a game.
No, you never will.
And you never will, because there's no fucking video evidence of it. Right. But that was the card to get in, forever. And it's just, it is that thing where people that are in that world value that thing, and they put this price tag on it. It's fucking incredible.
And that's funny too, because they put those in like cigarette packs, right?
Oh, exactly.
Back in the day. So it's like this very like throwaway thing. And I kind of feel like Magic had it. The value that was derived from Magic is kind of a similar thing. It's like, it's a kid's card game. Or,
right.
I mean, maybe it's for college students or whatever, but like a lot of kids played it. But that value comes from like scarcity and power and like whatever.
Scarcity and love. Because there's
it's a nostalgia thing for sure.
Yeah, nostalgia thing. Because it is one of those things where I can kind of see like, if you got something where it's like Jimi Hendrix guitar, you know, and it's like, okay, this is like a piece of American history. Like I get why this is worth X number of dollars.
Yeah.
But it's like, but why is the Black Lotus worth this? And it's like, well, because so many people have a connection with this thing. Mm-hmm. That's why it's worth that much money.
And another thing I'll add to is back to the art thing again. There is a piece of art on there.
Yeah.
And for some people, that is like one of the most iconic pieces of artwork. So it holds value to them because of that too.
It's like their version of a Basquiat.
It's not even the original painting though, which is the crazy thing.
Right.
It's a repro, right? It's a image of it.
It's a mass produced image.
You want to know a cool story? You'll appreciate this. So I actually read this recently, and I'm probably going to butcher the details of it.
Go for it.
There is a really iconic Magic card from the early days called Stasis. One of my favorite cards of all time. The artwork is super goofy. It's like a blindfolded fox, and like, I can't even describe it. It's very, surrealist kind of, whatever painting. It's in the early, and to put this in perspective, in the early days of Magic, they had, illustrations of all types. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like, we're just going to do like, here's an artist we like. Here's an illustration. Do something for a card called, Stasis. Do something for a card called Black Lotus. Do something for a card called, I don't know, whatever, another card.
Skeleton Warrior.
Yeah, Skeleton Warrior, whatever. Yeah. Holy Armor. But they had all these artists do these illustrations or whatever, and they've got these paintings. And so apparently, and I'm going to mutilate the details of this, but it's a cool story. There was this kid whose dad was a journalist, and he was interviewing Richard Garfield because this is in like 93 or 94 or something, like right as the game is like, it's blowing up and they like can't print enough cards. And he goes out to, I think, Seattle to interview Garfield and takes his son with him because his son is like 10 years old and loves playing the game. And he's like, hey, I'm bringing my son out. I just want to interview you, talk to you a little bit. My son's with me. He plays the game. And Richard Garfield's like, cool, yeah, I'll play with him. Like, we'll just answer questions and we'll play cards. And I guess his Richard Garfield like blew the kid out of the water because he's like, this guy's like a mathematician. He's got a PhD, whatever. He's a smart guy and he invented this game, right? And the guy asks him some questions and he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to put this in an article. It'll be in this whatever journal he's working for at the time. And the kid, whatever. And I think the way they met Richard Garfield was through a mutual friend. So like Richard Garfield's aunt was the woman who did the Stasis illustration, and the guy who was the journalist knew the aunt because they were like the neighbors or something like that. And so to try and get all the backstory right, it's something like that. And so they get down, they play the games, he asks the questions, whatever. He writes the piece up for the newspaper or the magazine or whatever, and they don't end up publishing it. So nothing happens from that. But the kid, because he plays this game with Richard Garfield and they're the aunt's like, oh, I did the painting for Stasis. You can have the painting, whatever. She just gives it to him. And like, then later, like this card is like an early Magic card, right? Mm-hmm. And so later, like there's this whole thing where they realize like, oh shit, this card is worth like a bunch of money. And so he writes like present day, he wrote another thing about like this whole conversation he had in this story. He's like, yeah, and my son, who's now like 30 years old or 35 or whatever, has this painting of like one of these Magic cards. And it's cool because, well, so of course it's worth a shitload of money now because like these original cards are like crazy. But the original painting, it's cool. There's like a picture in the article and it has like this, I'll send it to you, but it has like the original card art is actually cropped in on the painting. So there's like this piece on the bottom where she like painted some words or something.
Really?
It's not there. I don't know. It was like this crazy story of how this kid got this like not priceless, but got a very expensive piece of art just because he like tagged along with his dad and like played a game of Magic with the creator of the game.
Dude, talk about like a double, like
serendipitous as hell. It's crazy.
It's like, hey, you get to meet, number one, you get to meet the guy that made the thing that you're really fucking into. And also as you're going away present, have a ridiculously awesome piece of art that's now worth, thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
it's like
easily
cool. Awesome.
So in the comments of the article, there were people because he in the article he's like, it's worth like $10,000 or $20,000 or something. There's people in the article in the comments who are like, dude, that's worth like $200,000. Like he's like, I wouldn't sell that for less than like $250,000.
Hell yeah, dude.
I was like, holy shit. It's like a painting on a piece of cardboard that someone made in 1993. You know what I mean? Like,
but again, it's that whole thing of,
which is cool though. As like an artist, you're like, damn, that's kind of sick.
Recently, somebody said to me, they said that my coworker Kit, she did a
apologies also if I'm butchering that story and somebody's like banging their head against the wall.
I'm sold on it. Listener, it's a good story whether it's real or not. Look, the point of the story is she did an art show where every time somebody would look at one of the pieces in the gallery, she had a printer that would like change the price of the piece, and her whole point was, the more people that see a piece of art, the more money it's worth. Yeah. Because there is that thing where the more widespread it is and the more people know what that thing is, the more the value is there. And that's exactly the same deal where it's like the Stasis card, like I'm sure when this person made this, they were like, yeah, it's an illustration gig. I got paid like, $300 or whatever to make this thing and I shipped it to them and blah, blah, blah. And of course they didn't want the original piece. They just wanted the thing so they could produce it. And now, this thing's become a cultural phenomenon and, the love for this and all that. And it's like, oh shit, now this is worth, a lot of money now because so many people have a connection with it.
To the point about the Honus Wagner baseball card being in a cigarette pack. It's like, you couldn't have predicted this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You couldn't have predicted there would be 10 million people playing this game 30 years on, right? It's just like,
no, I mean, how do you even have that business meeting? It's like, guys, we're going to create this thing where like 10 million people play this thing internationally.
Right. It's going to be the card game that starts trading card games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, slow down, man. Like that. Honestly, if somebody hits you with that, that is definitely like a doing coke at 3 in the morning type business thing. Right. Where it's like, we're starting this card game thing, man. And it's just like, yeah, we're going to take over the world. Sure. Yeah, dude, we're totally doing that.
Yeah.
And the next morning people wake up.
Some sketchball who's like, I need you to invest in this thing for me. And you're like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, right now. Can I get your Venmo? It's like, no, you cannot. Yeah, like, actually, can you get out of my kitchen? Nobody fucking knows you here, dude. Like, why are you
your 1993 Venmo, which was like, what, a traveler's check or something? You're like, Can I get a traveler's check?
Guys, come on. Help me out here. Oh, shit. So, all right. Can you play with it? So, when you assemble a deck, can you still use cards from the 90s in the deck? Like, can you have a deck where you have cards from like 95, 2023, 2010 and mix them all together? How's that work?
Yeah. So yes and no. There are different, again, to the point about this game having different ways to play it. There's different styles, different, versions of the game. So there's like EDH, you can play any cards from the history of the game. except for they have some cards that are like banned, quote unquote, where you're not supposed to play them because like a Black Lotus you're not supposed to play because it's too powerful, whatever. But there are other versions like Standard, which only uses cards from sets within the last so many months. So those are like, and then there's Modern, which are cards after like old school borders stopped being made. So back in the 90s, there used to be these borders that were like, I think the cooler borders. Now they have these new borders that are a little easier to read for people that need glasses or whatever. But basically, but I'm old. I like the old school borders because the old borders looked like tomes. They looked like ancient books. You know what I mean? They're like kind of cool. And
So you like so you're pro old borders, pro old smell.
I'm pro old smell, pro old borders. It's a nostalgia thing to some degree, I'm sure. But the old borders, I think, look more like a fantasy game, and the new borders look more like just any old card game to me.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, so there are ways where you can play, and theoretically you can play any, if you're sitting down with a bunch of buddies and you say, hey, I'm going to play any cards I want to from the history of the game. If they're cool with it, then you play them that way.
Then throw it out
But there's like also people who go to these tournaments at like card stores and big convention centers, and those are going to have like judges there.
Yeah.
And those people are going to be like, you can only play the cards for this tournament that are a part of the guidelines of the tournament. So they might be like, you can't play Fireball for whatever reason, so you can't play it in that tournament with that card. Now that's not going to happen, but yeah. So it's like depending on the way that the version of the game you're playing is set up.
It's always interesting when nerdy shit becomes a sport.
Yeah.
Where the stuff that was relegated to like, we're going to do this because we don't like sports, or I'm not good at sports, I'm going to go do this, somehow becomes a sport.
There's like professional Magic players.
Absolutely.
And I know right now there is a lot of, I never paid that much attention to it. I've never been like super dialed in on the professional scene of stuff in Magic, but I know that there's a lot of guff right now because Wizards of the Coast, which is the company that creates Magic the Gathering, is not really supporting it in any discernible way as far as I know. And I'm probably messing all this up, but I know a lot of players that used to like really care about the Pro Tour and stuff are like pissed because there's just not any kind of support from the makers. They're just right now they're mad because those guys just seem to be focused on making money and not on supporting the player base and stuff like that.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
I do like the fact there is a pro tour, though. I like the fact that, like, I immediately thought of both bowling and golf in the same thing, and now I'm like, and Magic players.
But like, imagine a wizard there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Do they stream any of this? Like, can you?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's
so,
awesome.
And again, like this is part of the game that I'm not as knowledgeable about, but historically I know you can do like Twitch streams of people playing pro stuff, and you can do, there's like streaming availability for that stuff.
That's
YouTube,
awesome.
whatever.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. Every once in a while I'll watch it.
I do think that's another thing that's become like such a cool part of both the internet and, well, I mean, again, because the internet is just streaming, and also the ability to like, hey man, like, honestly, if we want to do something cheap, we can just like use iPhones. Like and if we want to put a little bit of value into, we can get some legit cameras, but you can really like set stuff up now that before was not possible to set up.
Totally.
And people can watch these niche, fucking subcultural things that there might be a limited fan base for it people are into.
You know, what's crazy too is like, you're talking about golf and bowling, and those are like games that you're like, this is such a simple game. Or like the rules are so like anybody can pick up a golf club and hit a ball, right? But the guys who do it at a pro level are so dialed in, and it's the exact same with Magic cards.
Yeah.
There are like microtransactions that happen within the game that you would totally miss out on. Like if you, like these guys that are at this really high skill level, basically within the game, just they see all of that stuff, right? Because they've done it so many times, and they know the order of operations for the cards. They need to play this card before this card before this card. Whatever. And it's like kind of incredible to watch because, I play super casual. I like just playing kitchen table Magic for the most part. I'll go to some, draft events or whatever occasionally, but for me, it's like a social thing with my buddies, right?
Yeah. But at the same time, it's chess, it's billiards, it's these things where you can get good at it, darts even, and you start formulating like there's a strategy to this.
There is. And basically the difference with like Magic and all those other things is that the game is like it is you're designing a deck to win, right? But the deck is shuffled before every game, and you're drawing 7 cards, and it's totally random as to what happens. You don't know what the next card is, theoretically. So any outcome is possible with that deck in any sort of form, right? So there's like, and again, to the point of like Richard Garfield, the creator, was a mathematician. So like there's a lot of math behind, there's like variable to how many different things can occur within a deck, especially when you're, I don't, how many thousands of cards, tens of thousands of cards there are in the game of Magic the Gathering now. But, 30 years in, like if you play EDH, there's a list of 100 cards you can't play or whatever, but everything else is playable. So there are like combinations that have not been done before, probably, right? Because there's just, so many damn cards in the game.
Well, let's pull this back in. So, how do you assemble your deck? Like, do you have like a set thing where you're like, and I don't even know like if it's a thing where it's like I want X number of creatures in my deck, I want Y number of knights in my deck. Like, how do you assemble what you make?
So I'll speak to just I'll speak in general, but also to EDH specifically, which is Commander, because that's the primary format I play nowadays. And basically that is like, you're kind of theming a deck, right? So with Commander, usually I will pick a general based on some kind of quality that he has that I'm like, oh, that would be really fun to build around. So maybe it's like a guy that interacts with zombies, right? So maybe it's a guy that like loads up your graveyard with zombies so that you can then play them. So it basically makes your hand bigger. Or it's an elf that creates tons of extra elves that then you can make more mana off of and cast bigger spells to then swing out and beat your opponent. So basically, like, your deck is going to have some kind of central theme, and it is going to somehow dictate what cards you put in there. And like, you're going to, if you want to optimize your deck, you're going to like put a certain amount of creatures in there, a certain amount of sorceries and instants and lands. But that varies deck to deck based on what the deck does specifically.
Okay, so it's not like fantasy football where it's like I got to have 2 quarterbacks,
No.
I got to have 2 running backs.
No. It like kind of, because if you just put lands in your deck, you would lose. Or if you just put creatures in your deck, you would lose. But so like you can't just play quarterbacks, right?
Right.
But it is different in that because of the complexity of the game, it can vary a lot. So like there are rules of like, if you're gonna, not rules, but like there are theories of deck building. Like if you're gonna build a deck and it's very creature focused, maybe you want like 38 creatures in a 100 card deck. But 30. Let me retrace that. If you're building a deck and you're looking at lands, you're going to put like 35 lands in there, okay?
And by lands, is it like geographical locations?
So lands are like, we're getting to the rules of the game again here. So lands are what help you cast spells.
Okay.
So in your deck, you're going to have spells, which is, the things that do damage to your opponents, that help you draw cards, that put creatures onto the battlefield that then can attack your opponents or do different things. And then, but lands are the other big, you have like, so there's creatures, sorceries, instants, enchantments, artifacts, lands, planeswalkers, battles now. Those are like the main, those are all the card types.
The card types.
But lands are what actually make it so that you are able to cast the spells.
Okay.
So basically, again, we'll go back to the planeswalker thing. You're the planeswalker. To be able to cast a spell from your hand that you drew from the deck of your spells, you play these lands. You can play 1 land a turn, and lands tap, and you draw like energy from the lands that then you can use to cast the spell. So the idea is that like if you have a forest and you have a creature that is like a forest type creature, like a fairy or an elf or a beast or something or a boar that you want to cast to then attack your opponent, you're like taking the energy from that land to be able to cast that spell. Sort of like a warlock, think of like a warlock drawing it.
You're charging stuff.
Yeah. Think of Dragon Ball Z when they're standing there like making the big ball of energy and they're like the grass is like flying towards them and then they throw the energy. That's kind of what you're doing.
Okay, so what happens if like you have your land as a cemetery, but then you have an elf? Like, does that make the spell less powerful?
So if you're playing, so there are elves that, so there's like, so the land types are forest, swamp, island, mountain, and plains. So white, black, red, blue, green.
Okay.
And there's creatures that are each type. There's spells that are each type of land, and then there's some that are both. So there could be an elf. Most elves are green. There's some elves that are black, and some that are black and green. And so depending on the creature, all the cards have like a casting cost, which is like how much land you have to like tap to draw energy from. And so to be able to, so for instance, Llanowar Elves is a very classic elf from the game Magic the Gathering. It costs 1 forest to play. So when you put Llanowar Elves into play, in order to play it, you have to tap, which means turn your land card to the side, perpendicular to all the rest of the cards. And that draws the energy from that land to play Llanowar Elves. So if you had a swamp out there, which would be like, you were talking about a graveyard. If you had a swamp out there, you couldn't play Llanowar Elves because you don't have a forest. It costs a forest to play.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, that helps to fill in the blank right there.
Yeah. So like, but there are cards that are like black green elves, like that you could tap a black or a green to help cast that elf. See what I'm saying?
Nice. Yes. Okay.
So it just depends on the specific card and what lands you have. So when you're deck building, you wanna, if you're building like a 2-color deck, like I do have a black green elf deck, in fact, which is funny that you bring that up. So like in my black green elf deck, I have swamps and forests because I have some elves that cost swamps, some that cost forests, some that cost both, one or the other.
Are the swamp elves barefoot and do that? Hold on, days.
And they smell of patchouli oil.
They're just wearing like fucking bib overalls and they have alligators around them at all times.
No, they're like, but it's cool because so each of like the colors of the lands, those are kind of the tribes, like you were talking about Warhammer. You know, you think of like, so like there are definitely specific sort of vibes that go with each color, right?
Got it.
So green is like, the forest, it's like, life-giving and they generate lots of mana quickly. Black is like death, like lots of like, you play something that gives you value, but then it also hurts you too.
It's very spooky.
Yeah, it's spooky. There's skeletons, zombies. Red is like a lot of really fast damage. This is like just from how the game is played. White is again, it's like taxing. It's like law-abiding, slow. Blue is like the wizard color. It's like you're preventing anything from happening. You're casting a lot of spells to shut your opponent down. I don't know. It's like interesting because there's like theory behind each of the colors and how they interact. And then when you put 2 colors together, you kind of take the aspects from the 2 different colors and meld them, right? So yeah, it's crazy.
Well, and again,
it gets really deep really fast.
Well, and again, it is the whole thing where like like having this conversation with you is making me understand like the appeal of this thing because again, we're hitting on the gambling, fucking card collecting side of the human psyche. We're also getting into the competitive nature of playing against somebody in a game and trying to win a game. You got the art aspect of this where shit just looks cool. And the collector aspect where it's like there's thousands of these things, but some of these things are worth a lot of money and some aren't.
Yeah.
But if you have this thing, it's going to make it so you can win because it's like it's powerful.
And there's like a storytelling aspect to it too.
Yeah.
And a social aspect. There's a lot of different things it hits on that make it really cool.
Yeah, the social aspect
When I
is
talked to
huge.
Jason, to get back to my earlier story about being at Target, I was like, I don't know how Tank never played this or like got into this because these are like all things he would be into. It's like there's lots of artists that like did art for Magic in the early days that were like comic book artists that did art with them. There's like fantasy elements. There's collecting stuff. It's like cool. I mean, cool card game. Like it just all seemed like stuff. I was like, how did Tank not ever play this?
I think it was one of those things where it's a so I was talking about this on a recent episode, but like when that point where you age out, like, or you get to like college or later in high school, and like I missed I grew up on Transformers and G.I. Joes, and I remember like missing the boat on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Like that was the thing that was after me where I was like, that's for kids.
Yeah.
Because I was now like a sophomore in high school or something. And then same thing with Pokemon, where it was just like, well, I'm in college now. Like, I'm not that fast. And I think it's just same thing with Magic. Like, I just missed it.
Sure.
And
Well, there's stuff like that for sure.
yeah,
For me too.
And it's just, but at the same time, it is like, having the conversation again, like, this is cool. Like, I totally get why people get wrapped up in it because there's so many things here that I enjoy where I'm like, oh, I like that. I like that. I like that. Yeah. Like, I totally get this. So, okay. So what is is all the pricing of the cards done through Beckett? Is that who is the go-to at this point for how you price things for this?
So you're talking about like secondary market, like if I was going to buy cards. There's like a lot of most of it, I mean, obviously you can go to like local comic stores and buy stuff. But the pricing is kind of dependent on the desirability. So there are so Beckett does grading and stuff, but they don't set pricing. There are like websites like Card Kingdom and TCG Player that sell online, and that is kind of how they set the pricing.
They're who's setting the market.
They're kind of setting the market. It's interesting because I remember the time before those like existed, or I guess maybe they existed, but they weren't as big as they are now. But I remember like when you just had your local card store, or you just had your group of friends to trade with. Because once upon a time it was like, I played Elves. I've always played Elves. That's one of my favorite, decks to play. And so like in the 90s, I only had the Elves that I had or that I could trade my buddies for. And now it's like I can just go on the internet and just search Elves,
get whatever
Magic
you want.
the Gathering, and buy any elf and like find all these elves that I never would have been able to get 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's like the for us in vinyl, like the Discogs thing, where it's just like you can track an album and it will tell you if somebody's selling that exact album that you want.
Yeah,
and you can get the variant of it. It's like, well, okay, I want this, but I want it to be one of the orange vinyl ones that they put out where they made 250 of them.
So it's much like how Discogs determines price in records, because even like record stores in town will look at Discogs. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but look at Discogs to see like what it's going for somewhere and decide if they want to sell it for that or sell it a little less to get it out of there quickly. So same with like Magic cards. Yeah.
TCG
Player.
And I think that's just the way with like all. I feel like that's like a thing with like, fuck Kelly Blue Book when you go to sell a card.
It's worth what someone's willing to pay for.
Yeah. You look up the Kelly Blue Book. Like, what does this thing work if I go through you guys? Like, what would this be? There's just something of that for every subgenre of collection. Is there something that is recognized as this is what we go by, this is who sets the market, and then all right, we can negotiate from here.
Yeah, it's whatever someone's willing to pay for it is basically what it sets at.
Yeah.
So of course, like a card that a ton of people want is going to be valuable.
Of course.
And something that like no one cares about is not going to be valuable.
No.
And the interesting thing too is like as they print cards, there's cards that like I had as a kid that I was like, this is horrible. There's no reason you would ever play this card, right? In, 10,000 cards later, they print something that all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, this is good. And it goes from being worth 10 cents to being worth $40 overnight. Whoa. Because people are like, so like, for instance, there's cards that like back in the day you would get in a pack and you'd be like, it makes me discard my hand or like makes me like throw my whole library into the graveyard. You're like, why would anyone ever play this? There's no reason to play this. And then like 30 years down the line, they print a card that's like, if you have no cards in your library, you win the game. But typically that loses you the game.
Right.
So you're like, why?
Yeah.
So there's always like this, something could happen that could change the perception of a card at any given time because they're constantly making new pieces for the game.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. It is kind of cool.
Are there any? We kind of talked about this earlier with like the Black Lotus. Like there is Holy Grail cards. Is there any card that you want to specifically get a hold of?
Me personally, no, not really. I mean, there's like old school cards I would love to have. Like it would be cool to own a copy of Chains of Mistopheles, which I don't have, just because it's a cool card. It has like really iconic art, really cool old school art on it. But I'm not going to buy it, dude, because it's like hundreds of dollars. There's an interesting thing that we should definitely get into because in recent years, kind of within EDH, right, you have this ongoing battle of like, should you be allowed to now with the internet becoming a thing and like people realizing like, hey, you can make stuff like we were talking about like making things pretty cheap from China earlier. It's like, hey, you can like print Magic cards, you know?
Oh.
So proxies, which are like basically like bootleg Magic cards. So it's like why would I buy a $600 copy of a card to play if I can buy like a 15-cent fake card? And like, okay, so granted, there's two things here, right?
Ooh.
There's proxies, which are like fakes that are clearly fakes that you're like, hey, I'm not going to spend $600 on a card, but I want to play with this card because it's kind of fun and it's goofy and whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's counterfeits, which are a different thing, right?
Yeah.
Where you're like, I'm trying to pass this off as a real card so I can sell it to make $600.
Right.
So to me, like proxying cards to play with your buddies, because you're like, hey, this is like a fun card I want to play with. I'm going to make a copy of it for this deck.
Sure.
That should be fine.
Well,
to me.
And again, you're playing with the boys and you're like, hey,
Yeah.
you know, this is, you know, like I'm not doing this to motherfuck you over. I'm
Right.
just doing this for fun. Like it would get real old real quick if it was like a thing where it's like, every time I play this, I fucking win. It's like, all right, dude,
Yeah.
like we get it.
But like, and like, so if someone makes a counterfeit of a Black Lotus and they're trying to sell it for $500,000
Yeah.
to somebody that thinks it's a real Black Lotus,
Yeah.
that's shitty.
Right. Or if you were in like a legit like competition where like you're at a, you know, if you're at a convention center and you're at a con and now you're playing in a tournament and
Even that, to be honest, I don't have an issue with proxies personally. I know there's people that would have issue, but like to me, it's like if you're playing cards, you still have to be good enough to play them in the right order.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So again, back to that golf analogy, like you still have to be good at golf to win a golf tournament.
So me with the best clubs in the world versus Tiger
Right.
Woods with the shittiest clubs in the world.
You're still going to lose to Tiger Woods.
Okay.
Tiger Woods at 65 years old would still beat my ass
Yeah.
if he was playing with a fucking stick off of a tree.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So let me understand this. So then there is that ability, like you could come to the table with the best cards on the planet, but if you don't know how to use the things, then you can lose.
Correct.
Oh shit.
I mean,
Okay.
you could win too, but but if somebody's like a pro and they're playing with the deck that they know, they're probably going to beat your ass.
Okay.
Even if you have the best possible deck pot. And that's kind of the interesting thing about the internet age too. Like, along with all the good things that come with online, you have people that just go online and like build a deck. They just go and say, what deck won this last tournament in Utah? What are the cards in the deck? I'm going to download those cards. I'm going to buy all those cards and go take it to a tournament and play it. But you still got to be good enough to win with that deck, even though you have a tournament deck. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No. Yeah. You gotta. Well, again, because of this thing where it's like, it's the weird. This is the weird thing with this, where it's like, it's collectible like comic books, but there is a game version of this where you have to know what you're doing to make it work and win.
Yeah.
And it's two different things that merge together to make this thing very special.
Yeah. So there's people that take it both ways and one way or the other way. So there's people that just collect it. There's people that play it and collect it. Or there's people that just play it and don't care about the collection. You know, there's lots of different ways that it's kind of interpolated and taken apart, which is part of the interesting thing about it.
Yeah, this does make it very interesting. The different, well, and again, I understand now why it's so big, because there's so many different ways you can enter into this thing and what you want from it. Like it's very open and to make it a personal experience.
Yeah.
All right, so we kind of talked earlier a little bit about the ability to play the game online. What is the online culture like of Magic the Gathering? Like, is it a Reddit page thing? Like, is some place where people can congregate to talk about the game? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, so they have their app for the game, like Magic Arena, and then there's like Magic Online. So there's multiple different places you can play it online. Then there's things like Cockatrice, and there's things like Spell Table. So there's lots of different ways to play the game online, both virtually and with like your actual cards and a camera, kind of looking down at your sort of game space in real life. But then in terms of like talking about the game, yeah, there's like a lot of Reddit and Discord and things like that. It's kind of similar to like video games, honestly, as far as I can tell. And maybe, I don't have the whole scope of everything, but yeah, in terms of like, the Reddit aspect and the Discord aspect. There's a lot of people conversing about like deck tech and things like that, and I'm sure every possible imaginable iteration of Magic interest has like a Reddit subreddit. You know what I mean? So there's like subreddits for EDH, and there's subreddits for like general Magic, and there's subreddits for Dan, and there's subreddits for like old school Magic, and there's subreddits for modern and standard and whatever else, you know. Yeah.
I spend way too much time on Reddit. It is just, it's a never-ending rabbit hole of never-ending rabbit holes. The fact that there is a subreddit for everything
really is.
crazy. Like, however niche you want to get, you will find other people that are into the same weird shit that you're into, and they're happy to talk about it.
Good and bad. It's true.
Good and bad. Yes, you
I definitely read Magic subreddits. There's a handful I check. There's the general Magic subreddit I read a lot. The EDH subreddit I read. There's a subreddit called Magic Finance that I read.
Oh, really?
Which is a lot of people who are like looking to invest in Magic cards for long-term gains.
Interesting.
Almost like a stock. And generally I read that just so that I can get ahead on like cards that are probably going to go up in price so that I can get them before they're expensive.
Yes.
So I can be like, oh, it's 10 cents right now. I'm going to buy 4 of them so I have a play set before it's $40. You know what I mean? So there's stuff like that for sure for Magic as well. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is. And again, it's just cool that this exists and that there is the ability to communicate and have those moments where you can talk to people about, again, just the weird stuff you're into. And again, the whole finance thing is an interesting side of this because it's something I don't think about. But in a competitive game where buying shit can equal wins, like that makes sense. It's kind of like drafting players or like picking somebody up off waivers.
Yeah. And again, it's like you can buy the best cards in the game, but you still have to be able to play the game.
Yeah, you still got to be able to do it.
So there's definitely an advantage to having money in some regard, but there are people who make really good decks out of not very good cards that can beat your ass every time they play you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's still skill to it for sure.
Are there any kind of like Magic celebrities in terms of either pro players or like people that are popular to watch on YouTube that have shows and stuff where they talk about the game or just or like they have like a comedy show based around the game?
There definitely are. I am not Gen Z enough to know all of those people for sure, which is to say that I'm not Gen Z at all. But there definitely are. There's like YouTube personalities and things like that. There's one guy who does... there's this one YouTube channel called Tolarian Academy. And honestly, that guy is like a great place to go kind of learn about the game. He's super approachable and funny, and kind of dorky in like a really endearing way. But I don't know all the ins and outs of that whole culture, to be honest with you.
I do think that's another weird thing that the internet has produced is like, again, whereas like there's a dorky subreddit for everything you can want. There's also that with YouTube where everything's custom built towards you. And there's enough people you can follow. There's a guy that I occasionally watch his videos. His name is Troy Dan. And Troy Dan is this dude that just plays the EA sports games. So he plays Madden. He plays the NBA game, MLB The Show, all this stuff, but he always adds the UFC game. He always adds like these like weird things to it where it's like if he loses a game online, he has to do a shot of tequila or like eat like a hot dog or something like that, and he'll end up eating like 12 hot dogs during the course of a play session. But but he's also like pretty good, so then he can like beat people and stuff. He's done videos where he had to get like a knockout in every UFC video game ever released, or like a home run in every MLB game ever released,
awesome.
And like having to go through and like replay all these old games. He did another one where it was like you had to score a touchdown with every Heisman Trophy winner in every NCAA football game ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just stuff like that where it's like these weird like microcosm celebrities appear.
Awesome. Yeah, those definitely exist for Magic.
Yeah,
I just don't know the ins and outs. So like Tolarian Academy is one that I do enjoy watching every once in a while because he's pretty entertaining. And I know there's other ones because they pop up on the sidebar of YouTube and stuff like that. And they exist on Instagram and TikTok, which I'm not on. And, again, I'm just not as...
I've not made the jump to TikTok yet.
No, me neither.
Instagram's
enough. I get the TikTok 2 weeks late.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm like, Oh, I need to, but man, it's just so much work to like record videos on my phone and think about it and then edit it and put it
Yeah.
together. It's like I don't.
Well,
Okay.
and now people do like podcasts, but they record themselves on video doing podcasts, and then
Yeah.
they post the videos on Instagram and TikTok, and so those things go viral, and so it's like
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure you've seen that stuff, right?
Yeah, it's a whole new ADHD world. Like
Yeah,
it
it
is.
really is.
Everything is 15 seconds long,
It's
and
so bad for me.
yeah. Oh, it's so well. Yeah, and especially the algorithm too, where like it starts to funnel into you, like, oh,
Yeah.
this is the shit you're looking at. Well, here's more of that shit, and
Yeah.
it really gets it down into like,
Oh, you like Magic the Gathering cards and
Yeah.
hardcore punk and what? We're just gonna put that stuff on repeat forever.
Yeah.
Into your brain, and
Oh.
you can just scroll infinitely for 6 hours.
oh, you like bulldogs? Here's bulldogs.
Yeah.
Like just constantly,
Pretty
just
much, yeah.
all the time.
It's like, here's a horror movie. Here's a Magic card. Here's a hardcore punk band you've never heard of. Here's a whatever.
Yeah.
Boston Terrier.
Yeah, well, it is that whole thing. It's it was that documentary that came out a few years ago. It was on Netflix. I forget what it was called, but it was all about like social media sites, and they explain like the way algorithms work and the way it is like playing like a slot machine, where it's just like the algorithm fine tunes itself to you, so you're just constantly swiping and you're getting the dopamine of getting likes and interactions and oh, this is the video that you like, and it just everything is geared to just make you spend more time on the social app. It's like the same thing where like everything inside a casino is geared to keep you in the casino and keep spending money. Social media sites are all geared to how much of your time can I take? How can I get you? This is the first thing you grab in the morning when you wake up, and just you will just end up mindlessly scrolling and not even notice that you're scrolling.
You're
just
reminding me that I
spending
need to delete
time.
my Instagram.
It's a weird thing, man. It's like, was this what it like, or what we experienced with social media? Was this what it was like back in the day? People didn't know smoking was bad for you.
Right.
Like
Totally. That's totally my theory.
We're like you just did like 2 packs a day, and you're like, that's fine. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's cigarettes for the millennial generation.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really
Yeah,
is.
it really
like
is.
where it's just like it's part of my daily.
Well, really everyone now. I mean, even baby boomers. You see like folks in their 60s and 70s walking down the street staring at their phone, not
Yeah,
like,
just,
paying attention.
just yeah. Well, and it's a weird thing because it is that weird mix of like, I mean, there has always been a thing where we as humans, when we have downtime, we distract ourselves by like, listening to music on headphones, or we're like doing a crossword puzzle in the newspaper, reading the newspaper, reading magazines. There's all those things where you could entertain yourself singularly, but now we all have phones and we can just all stare into them.
Yeah. Stare into the void.
Yeah. Fuck, dude.
Yeah.
This isn't good.
We're talking about magic here, you know?
Yeah. Now I'm just depressed.
Yeah, no.
All right.
These are the kinds of conversations I like to have, though.
really, really dark ones.
Yeah, seriously.
Look, man, was there anything that we didn't hit on that you wanted to talk about? Was there anything that I missed in the overall scheme of Magic that we didn't touch that we should have?
We bounced all over the place, and we talked about a lot of stuff with Magic the Gathering. And I feel like there's still a lot we could talk about, to be honest. But that's just because the game is insanely big now. It really is. But yeah, I think we'd sit here and talk for 6 hours about it, honestly, and like not run out of things to say. At least I couldn't. It's a lot of fun. I love it. It's a great game. I think probably I have to teach you how to play it at some point. Seriously.
It sounds fun.
Yeah, we need to get together and I'll show you how to play. And I think seriously, probably we'll get together with Jason and do it.
Hell yeah, dude.
Seriously.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be good.
That'd be
For a couple
sick.
years. Yeah, I don't have anything else I would add right now. I think we've gotten like a good base down.
Well, okay, so like, what's the future you want to see for this? Like, do you want to see like a Netflix series or something? Like, do you want to see like a theme park for Magic the Gathering? Like, what do you want to see next?
I think I know at some point in time, I don't know if it's still in development, they've had a TV show in development. I think it would be cool. I mean, it would either be a burning pile of trash, like, pile of trash or whatever, right? Or it would be like kind of cool. So I think it could be done well. I think I would like to see it like continue to be something that I can enjoy and my kids can enjoy. So I have 2 kids.
Are you
for your viewers, I have 2 kids that are like 1 and 3.
are you bringing? Oh, okay, so not bringing them into it yet, but
No, they're too young right now. But so my point is, I every year they've been alive, I've like saved a pack from a set that I've enjoyed during that year. So like a booster pack or whatever, right? So at some point I'll introduce the game to them, and when I do, I'll be like, hey, here's a bunch of cards that you can just get started with, right? And it'll be cool because it's like, hey, here's a pack from each year you've been alive, which is neat because otherwise you wouldn't get those packs because they go out of print at some point, right? So it's like the Adventures from the Forgotten Realms, which was the D&D set that came out a couple years ago. I got a pack of that from my son, right? And like when he opens that, I'll be like, oh, this is cool because, or maybe he won't realize it, but at some point he'll realize like, oh, this is cool because my dad held on to this, and it's cards that I wouldn't be able to get otherwise super easily unless maybe they reprint it at that point. Side note, they're printing a Lord of the Rings set this summer, like in a month, and I'm going to lose my damn mind and my damn wallet because I'm going to spend too much money buying Lord of the Rings cards because I love Lord of the Rings. If your listeners couldn't tell already. But yeah, I'm going to save some cards from that for them. But I think it's like, I just hope that it continues to be something that people enjoy and kind of find their own path with, and it continues to be something that lots of different diverse people enjoy. And if that's spread through like a TV show or a cartoon or something, that's really cool. And I hope it's good. Because we've seen how these things have gone with IP in the past, and there can be like bad versions of things and good versions. So, I think Hollywood is starting to get a grasp on how to do these things right. We just saw the new Spider-Man animated movie the other day.
Oh yeah,
I took my son to see that.
Yeah,
and it kicked ass, dude. It was so good.
I loved the first one. The first one was incredible.
Good. Yeah, it was. And the new one's like, and that one, as good as that was, the new one's even better.
Oh Jesus!
So I think like. I'm hopeful that like they can just figure, I'll buy the product, right? Like as cynical as I can be, like I'll buy the product if it's something I care about. I just hope that it continues to grow and be something that people can get interested in, and it is not, there's not a barrier to entry. You know what I mean?
I definitely think Hollywood has gotten better with IPs. I think that the Marvel movies kind of like got them to understand like how it works, because there was that time before where they did like Masters of the Universe with Dolph Lundgren back in the 90s. It was so bad,
where they're flying around those little cars and stuff.
And then he was also the Punisher back then. There was like that bad Captain America
the shitty,
movie,
like beard.
So bad, dude.
Oh, that Captain America, my brother and I used to rent that on VHS at the library, man.
Bad.
It's so bad.
So bad. Like,
with the helmet and shit.
Yeah, it was so bad for so long. But yeah, and then there was also like that whole thing where there was always the cash grab in video games where they would like bring over a movie, and the movie video games were always bad. There was a few that were good, like Batman for the original NES was pretty.
That was good. Yeah, because it was just Ninja Gaiden, but Batman.
Yeah, with Batman. Yeah, exactly. And and we've seen some other stuff with that, but now in like the modern world of IPs and stuff, and the people that are controlling them, it does feel like we're starting to get a handle on like how to bring something over.
And there's like a glut to it, right? Like the Marvel stuff has gotten to a point where people are like, okay, I'm kind of tired of this.
Yeah, well, it is the westerns of the 70s now.
Yeah,
where it's just they made so many of these fucking movies. It's like, dude, I'm kind of over.
I think we're kind of getting to the end of that, the tail end of that. But I do feel like there'll always be a reinvention. That's what happens with art. There's reinvention, and make it fresh again, make it better, and we'll have good stuff that comes out of it for sure.
Yeah.
No.
And I'm interested to see like how people continue to handle IPs. Like I think that like when they did The Last of Us for HBO, I think that was a really good adaptation of something. But then I looked at like the Halo series that Paramount did. I think it was Paramount. And it was fucking terrible.
I know, man.
And it's just like they're getting better at it, but there's still some people that really drop the ball hard.
And 2000, like 2 or 4 or whatever, when Halo came out originally, I don't know what year that was, but I remember when they were like, there's going to be a Halo movie. And for like 10 years, there's going to be a Halo movie. And it's like, come on, man, where's the fucking Halo movie? And I'm not even the biggest Halo fan, but like a Halo movie seems like such a no-brainer, and they still haven't done it.
Yeah, it really does.
So,
I mean, I don't understand why, or just like, or just do it like the Spider-Verse. Like, just do that. Like, just do you want to make like a really like high-end animated Halo movie? Awesome. Yeah. I would watch that.
It's almost like they're being too precious with it, where you just need to like take the jump.
Yeah. Well, and especially something like Halo, where it's just like the whole thing is Master Chief doesn't talk; he's badass.
You do whatever you want with that.
Yeah,
You do whatever you want.
and he just fucks shit up. Like
Yeah.
it's not that hard of a thing to write.
Right.
Yeah,
I agree.
Hollywood, talk to us. We
Just
got you.
remake Alien with Master Chief.
Yeah,
That's Halo.
yeah, that's Halo. Yes.
It really is. Like the Flood, that's just like alien crap.
All
you
right,
know?
Luke, settle down. Quit giving our multi-million-dollar ideas on a fucking podcast. Chill out on
Anyone
that.
that's still with us in this podcast at this point is not a Hollywood director, so we're okay.
Fair enough. Well, look, man, let the people know where they can find you out on Instagram or online if they want to follow you and also support you.
General Walcott, and I work for Founders Brewing Company. So if you like craft beer, or if you like beer in general, we have stuff that is approachable. Founders beer is really good.
Yeah, buy it. It is tasty. Listener, you can find me at Neil to No One. And if you like this episode, you've got a friend that's in the Magic Gathering, share this episode with them. And after you share that, there's over 100 back episodes you can share with them as well. I cover a different hobby and collection each week. And while it does help if you do share things online via social media networks, honestly, just telling a friend is a way better way to do it because it has some, credibility and equity built in if you endorse it.
Friends trust you.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. All right, Luke, man, dude, thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having this conversation with you. It was a blast.
Thanks for having me, man. It's
Listener,
always fun.
It is always fun. Listener, peace.